I am letting my boyfriend stay at my home rent-free, but he brought his pick-me best friend too. Now he's panicking because I evicted them and left them on the streets. My boyfriend Kevin and I have been dating for 8 years now, and he's always hung out with this one girl named Brianna. She's a bit of a pick-me, considering she absolutely despises me when I show any indication that Kevin might like me a little more than he likes her. Sometimes I feel like I'm in a literal threesome because Kevin literally has to divide his time evenly between Brianna and I to make sure everyone's happy. She's constantly jumping on him, hugging him, and I keep having to paw her hands off his face. Despite all of this, Kevin and I actually have a great relationship. We recently moved in together to this beautiful 2-bedroom home, and since I bought the home it was in my name. Our first few months together in the home was wonderful. We constantly woke up to cuddling and kissing. I made him meals whenever I could, and he brought me flowers every time he came home from his shifts. I was honestly prepared to make this change in our relationship permanent with marriage, until Brianna started whining. She claimed that Kevin was showing me too much favoritism, and it isn't her fault that he's obsessed with me just because I'm allowed to bang him. I won't lie, I almost burst a neck muscle at that comment. Kevin fell for it as always, and started coming home later and later every single day to make up for his neglect, as he says. But in turn, I started to feel like I was losing him, and I wasn't going to let that slide. I told him he had to be home more often or I'd leave him, and despite some hissy fits and stink eyes, he agreed. Brianna clearly didn't take the news well, and she made it well known in my DMs by telling me to stop being so territorial. I told her she needed to back off my boyfriend, and she told me she didn't see his collar, so how could he be mine? Even after that comment, Kevin still didn't believe me on how twisted she was, so I just put a ban on Brianna in our home and called it a day. That was until Kevin came rushing in with her in his arms, claiming that there was an emergency. Clearly, because I'm a nice person, I went up to help her, but when I looked at her, she seemed perfectly fine. When I asked Kevin what this was all about, he said that it was a private matter but Brianna needed to stay over for a while. I told him she absolutely could not stay over, but he ignored me and settled her into our guest bedroom. I was so upset thinking about how I needed to wipe the entire bed clean as soon as she left, but she didn't leave. She stayed for days, then weeks, and then months. I would ask Kevin to tell her to leave, and he'd just tell me I was being an inconsiderate jerk. I even tried kicking Brianna out myself, but she smirked and said she only took orders from Kevin. To be honest, I was getting sick of them both now. I was tired of seeing her cuddle my man on the couch, and I was sicker of him letting her. So I devised a plan using my money from Bloom. Since my name is on the deed of the home, I was in charge of what goes on in this house. So I asked my friend who is a lawyer for some advice, and they said I could legally kick them out any time I wanted to. And so I did. One day, I walked up to them with 2 fancy matching suitcases and dumped it at their feet. I said they had 30 minutes to pack all of their crap and go on some sort of backpacking trip, as long as they were far away from me. They told me I couldn't possibly kick them out, but I reminded them that I was paying the bills and I owned the house, so I could do anything I wanted. Kevin almost cried at my feet to let him stay, but I just went into his closet and started throwing his crap on the floor. Brianna was just yelling at me about how evil I was to do this to her precious Kevin, but I didn't care. I wanted them out, and just like I said, in 30 minutes, they left. I tried redecorating the place to make sure their presence would leave the home, but it didn't, just like how Kevin couldn't stop DMing me. So I made a decision for myself. I was going to buy myself a fancy house like the ones you see in Tenafly, and I was going to rent out this dump to any other unfortunate couple. When I put the notice up, Kevin had the audacity to apply to rent the home, but I rejected it right away. I don't give a damn if he's homeless, he can be homeless with his girl. Now I'm making twice as much, with 2 idiots begging for forgiveness in my DMs texting from the homeless shelter. Oh, and I found a new man who actually could kiss properly.